What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I think it's about time we do an official Gotham Knights release date predictions. Now, I've done this a few times when it was, a Batman game, when it could have been an Arkham game. We've done it I feel like annually, whether it's quarterly, whether it's half a year, but I'm going to go over, and I am sticking very, very close to what I've been saying for a very long time, so it's not like I'm just coming up with this today. My track record in terms of my prediction for when this game is going to release, I think it's going to speak. I think that you guys can go back and say, okay, well, he's got a lot of good points, and he's been saying the same thing for a long time. He doesn't just change his mind on a dime, okay? Now, for the most part, this, I think, is the first video of any of the Batman people, and I don't consider myself one of them. This seems to be the first one doing this. I've seen talk of when people think this game is going to come out, and so let's get into it. So I've been saying for the longest time, and now again, if you've watched other videos, you'll have heard me throw this in, but to catch any new people up, if this video can actually, can stay alive for multiple months, new people are going to be watching this. So here's what I think. I've been saying for a very, very long time, I think this game is a February, March game. Now, there's actually, and I've stuck with that for a long time, even before the announcement of this game. Okay, Gotham Knights in August, DC Fandom, I had said, look, there's so many people throwing around November as if it's, just some prophecy that's definitely going to happen. I had never agreed with that. Yes, every year we used to say, okay, Arkham 2018, Arkham 2019, every year we do that, okay? So I'm not saying that's never happened. But as we got closer, and as especially what's happened in 2020, the stuff that went on around the world, as I always say, I had said multiple times that, yes, the release date was probably supposed to be November, but it is not, any longer, okay? So I've said that for a very long time. Now, again, things that have happened, I really feel like have backed me up. I've said February or March for a very, very long time. I will, I guess, amend it to January, although I still do feel like February or March is the time. And so here are the reasons. Number one, I do believe it was supposed to come out in November, okay? For the longest time, I think it was supposed to come out, whether they would try and line it up maybe late October, okay, close to like Arkham Origins, maybe they feel comfortable releasing games there, or November. I think they really had always planned for that to happen. Now, why did they really, in a way, start teasing this last September? Okay, September, remember, is when they did Capture the Night and all that stuff. Why did they do it then when it wasn't supposed to come out for a full year and then a couple months? I have no clue. Even January, when they started doing Redacted, I guess that makes a little bit more sense. You would start to build it up for the first half of the year in June at E3, which was canceled, but this is, again, we have to kind of follow through what they were going to do to get to where we are right now. It was going to be announced at E3, so you got to think, okay, you do Redacted in January, you build it up, you do all those symbols, you do the website, you get us to June, and then you announce the game. Then you go silent for a couple months, and then, early fall or late summer, you come back, you hit us, and then bam, a couple months later, game comes out, okay? Seems pretty straightforward. We heard a lot of people in the gaming industry say that the game could have been or was going to be November. A lot of people said it, and a lot of people were very confident in that, which is totally cool. And again, I think that is what was going to happen. I think the thing that went around the world delayed it. Now, how much did it delay it? I really don't think it's all that much. Now, this is where I think some of the more knowledge I have of the gaming industry can fully shine. Look, this thing that's happened has affected games differently. Games that were further out are now going to be even further out, mainly for games that have motion capture, because that was delayed by like 3, 4, 5 months on average. We could say 3, 4 months, average. So if a game was coming out in late 2021, 2022, even sometime, because there are motion capture stuff that happens not necessarily right until the very end, but you can be doing it for an extraordinarily long time. Then there's also voice, recording when you see people in like the booths and stuff. That's separate. You can do that at the same time, but normally that's a lot of those specific moments are also done afterwards. Okay, so Gotham Knights. So how does it affect Gotham Knights? Well, Gotham Knights being in November, I think they already had all the motion capture stuff for the most part completely done. Maybe yes, I wouldn't even say maybe. They absolutely still had voice recording to do, but you can still do that, and game developers still did that, okay? So that doesn't really impact it. So, and by saying that, so here's why I say it. The game was supposed to come out in November. I think that's definitely the hallmark that we all have to remember. I do not think this game got delayed an entire year. So for those, and I have seen a lot of people, a lot of bigger named, even Batman people, say second half of 2021, fall of 2020. Who knows? Maybe they line up with the movie. Well, I've always said two things. Number one, I don't think it's going to get delayed a year. Number two, they've never tried to line up with the movie. Anybody that says that, I really just can't. I just can't with them. You know what I mean? The movie. I've said this before. Movies to games, you don't line them up. You can't line them up because they're both so volatile that they can both switch on a dime. The movie itself was delayed. The game itself. Well, think about it like this: Warner Bros. Montreal has canceled like 2 to 3 games. Okay, so that's a lot of games. You're telling me that 7 years ago when they were finished with Origins and made this, they said, hey, the Batman movie, which, by the way, wasn't even like thought of at the time, they're like, you know what, we're going to line up our game with that. No. Anybody who thinks that is crazy. Now, yes, could they try to line it up if they're very close to each other? Yeah, I guess you could do that. But trust me, if the game's ready in February, they are not going to polish it for like 7-8 months to get it to come out at the same time as they're not going to do that. They're going to be losing so much money. They have to get the game out. Okay, so anybody that says that, I'm just not even going to. I'm going to pretend like nobody says that. Okay, but sadly, there are people that say that. Okay, so it was supposed to come out in November. Now, why the push? Why the push of only a couple months? Well, again, I don't think it delayed it all that much. I feel like it has. I wouldn't say it's a 1-for-1. Like, okay, they had to work from home, and the stuff that happened around the world really kind of shut down the world pretty severely for, let's say, 3 months. I don't think you can take that 3 months and say, okay, add 3 months to the end, which means December, January, February. I mean, like technically I am doing that, right? Because I'm saying, okay, if the game comes out in November, it was supposed to come out in November, I think February, March, which happens to be 3 to 4 months. Well, again, the reason I say that is, number one, I don't think it's going to be a mid-2021 game. We can even use Hogwarts Legacy to help us out here. Now, there's no guarantee on this, but let me throw out to you guys, in my opinion, the biggest thing. I will quickly say pre-orders and them having a rating for Gotham Knights is more fuel to the fire. Pre-ordering it, that isn't exactly something. I know people have said, you can pre-order, it must be close. I mean, it's a good sign. I'm not saying at all that that's not a good sign. It doesn't have to mean all that much. Okay, that's something to keep in mind. Now, the rating, that does mean something. Ratings, you normally don't get ratings all that early on. So you normally get ratings very, very close to when the game comes out, like within a couple months. So that is pretty odd that they have that, okay? So we'll just keep that in mind. That's a good sign. That's definitely a good sign that maybe January, February. That's why I kind of extended it. I've always said February, March, okay? I've said that for like half a year now at least. But, with the rating, with all this stuff, January, yeah, Prince of Persia Remake, Hitman 3, there's some big games coming in January. It's not impossible for it to happen in January, so I'll give it that shot. But to me, the biggest thing is this, is the systems it's coming out for. Now, I save this to the end, and I also say it again, this is the thing that it's not confirmed. It doesn't have to mean something massive. It means something massive to me, but I tend to take things and go a direction, and sometimes I'm very, very right, and sometimes I'm wrong, okay? And that's just factually what you guys should know about me. But here's what I think. The game is coming out on all consoles, so PS4 and Xbox One included, okay? Hogwarts Legacy is coming out on PS4 and Xbox One included. Now, again, I think that's a really important one to keep in mind because I still think Gotham Knights is first. I think Gotham Knights is the first game to release from Warner Bros. In fact, it may be the first game even considering the Lego Star Wars game. We don't technically even know the official release date of Lego Star Wars, but we know it's probably in the spring, okay? I think it's going to, but I don't really want to count that, okay? It's kind of such an outside thing. I think it goes Gotham Knights, Harry Potter, and then honestly, it does kind of there could be a Middle-earth game somewhere in there, but then we get into Injustice 3 and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League territory, okay? In terms of those games. Now, there's plenty of other games. Again, Lego Star Wars is a game you can't really just forget about. It's a massive, and in fact, I'm actually super excited for that game. It's a massive game. But them coming out in current gen, now look, we know it's going to be a slow transition. In my opinion, way too slow of a transition, but that's a different topic that gets people very mad at me anyway. I think it's a slow transition, and I think that's generally the overall thing. So just because it's coming out on PS4 and Xbox One doesn't mean it has to come out in the first half of next year. But I will stand True. And I at least because I want this to happen, and hopefully it does. But if it doesn't, then whatever. I would like to see as we get into the fall of 2021 and go into 2022. I would like to start seeing games drop off of current gen. And again, that is not because I want to leave people behind. It's not because I want people to give me money, okay, or just give money in general. I get that not everybody has money. And by the way, I'm not entitled. I hate it when people say that. That's just the stupidest thing in the world. It's factually with hardware, with console, with phones, with laptops, with computer, with anything, TVs. You could come up with it's just consoles because we're talking about them. You do eventually have to upgrade. Eventually, the old stuff becomes old. PS4 and Xbox One will become old. They will hold back next gen gaming. They will. I mean, there's just so I can go down lists of things that will eventually happen. But factually, you will have to let go of the current gen we're in right now for next gen. If it's not within the first day, if that's fine. If it's not in the first week, fine. Month, fine. Year, we're getting a little bit sketchy. Couple years, we're getting very on the fence where it's like, well, eventually you have to let it go. Okay, so that's my biggest thing is I would like to see when we get into the fall, I would like to see games start to not be on current gen. Does that mean that these two games, if one of them does come out in the fall, could it still be on current gen? I mean, yeah, that's the problem is if Hogwarts Legacy comes out in the fall of 2021, it's still on current gen as well as next gen. My entire argument kind of does. I mean, I guess not the core of it, not like my core beliefs of it, that doesn't fall apart, but the argument falls apart. I think Gotham Knights is at least first half of 2021. I think Hogwarts Legacy, I've actually always kind of agreed with that June period. I've said fall of 2021. That's always been my thing with it. I think that we could still get that if Hogwarts Legacy, say, gets delayed just a little bit. If it's supposed to come out in June, let's say, gets delayed 2-3 months, well, bam, there you go in September, October. I think if you look at Warner Bros. For 2021, it would be very easy to say Gotham Knights starts them out very, very strong, February, March. You have Lego Star Wars to help you out, and then the fall, you hit us with a Harry Potter game, or a Wizarding World game, Hogwarts Legacy. I think that would be, honestly, a killer 2021 for Warner Bros. So, in order for that to happen, in order for Hogwarts to come out in the fall, and that too, you're not going to release these games like the same month as each other. So, if you think Hogwarts is coming out in like April or May, well, Gotham Knights, I think factually is going to come out before it. Okay, and also you're not going to release it like the same month. I would even say the same couple months. Although they're different games, Wizarding to DC, they're still massive, trust me, massive games inside of Warner Bros. It's the same thing with Sony, Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima. Now, yeah, they were only a month apart. So, yeah, they could be a month apart. I'm just saying you don't do it like the same week. You don't do it within the same month. You do Last of Us. You do Ghost of Tsushima. Because you got to push one at a time. You got to push, even though they're different games, they're both Sony, you got to push. And it's the same thing for anything. Bethesda does this. EA does this. Ubisoft does this one at a time. And when they don't do it, normally games tend to suffer. That's just factually how it's going to work. I think we'll see that Ubisoft with Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed. I think one of them will be hurt by the other. Okay? So I still think Gotham Knights is first half of 2021, but I'll even say early. I still am going to stick with February, March. So guys, let me know in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think that happens? When do you think this game releases? Do you agree with my points? Do you disagree? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to this YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. And I know I'm not doing, this is a Tuesday, which is odd because it's normally Monday, Wednesday, Friday. More Gotham Knights videos several times a week. We got lots of different topics to talk about, and I hope to see you guys there.